We are definitely, ladies and gentlemen, getting started. Sorry for the blank screen for the past 30 seconds. Everybody that's on YouTube right now. I was hearing my feedback from the TikTok session. It was throwing me off. So we are all set, ready to rock and roll. Welcome back, traders. Happy hump day. It is December 11th, 2024. We got a big day ahead. We have a lot to talk about. And today is going to be a wonderful day in the market. Every day is a great day, but today is going to be a killer day, ladies and gentlemen. So before we dive into it, everybody over on YouTube, hit me with a big old good morning. I want to make sure you guys are all set, ready to rock here. Audio is good. The stream quality is good before we dive into it. Then I want to hear everybody's beautiful voice inside of the Zoom as well. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Morning, Tom. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. You cannot. Yes, that is right. Because Josh has like a bajillion freaking tabs open. He cannot get his right. And boom, you should be able to see it now. That is a wonderful thing. We're good now. Beautiful stuff. And so, yeah, one thing to hit on real quick, moving forward, if you guys just want to tune in to the pre-market rundowns over on YouTube, and I do not come into the Zooms and take away all of your guys' time to be able to work together, just let me know. If you guys don't mind, we'll keep just jamming it through Zoom as well, but just keep me on that. Continue to make little adjustments as needed. But we're going to dive into it, ladies and gentlemen, right? We had CPI data released this morning, 8:30, and as expected, CPI data came in line with the forecast. So if anybody's wondering, Josh, why are the Qs pushing like 2 points to the upside? Why is the SPY pushing out of nowhere 2 points to the upside? It's because we had key data this morning. We had CPI data released at 8:30. And the data was in line with the forecast. And so markets are starting to push on up a little bit here today. And so, yes, we will definitely break down the SPY, the Qs, talk about all of the key zones, do the analysis, build the plans, and really get you guys prepared for today. All right, so go ahead and dive right into it. And as always, we always want to scan the economic calendar. Just be mindful of what we have going on for the trading session. And so biggest piece of data, again, this morning was at 8:30. We had CPI. Throughout the rest of the day, I mean, you're pretty much in the clear. We don't have anything else coming on up. That's going to be like a high impact event. Anything you got to be super mindful of. We are in the clear today. But for those of you that may be looking to put on any kind of a swing trade, be mindful that you have key data tomorrow at 8:30. And so I do not like holding any kind of swing trade through key economic data. Tomorrow, you have PPI data being released at 8:30. Tomorrow as well at 8:30, you do have jobless claims. And so you do have two high impact pieces of data being released ahead of market open. So if you have a swing trade on the table, manage it correctly today. Maybe look to exit that position. And then if you're looking to open up a swing trade, right, just really weigh that into your trade plan with you would be holding through some really, really key data that's set to be released tomorrow at 8:30. So just be mindful of that. But for today, we are in the clear after market open, guys. So with all that being said, let's go right to the SPY. Let's do some top-down analysis. And we'll go from there, get down to those lower time frames, build those plans, and we'll be all set, ready to rock and roll. Alex on YouTube, what's up? Good morning. And then everybody else that has not said good morning, I know you're there. Good morning, everybody. So with the SPY, we're on the daily, and we're finding all of our key zones. Then we'll just simply follow that process, go down to our lower time frames, make those fine-tune adjustments, continue any analysis, and do analysis done, and then we'll start to build some plans based on what do we see, where are we at, and what do we think could happen today. So first thing that I want to point out is I really do like where the SPY came down to yesterday, where we came down and had a nice bounce at a low a day yesterday. So if you just run a fib retracement on the SPY from this most recent swing low, where we saw this push on up, we pulled back, nice little higher low push in the new all-time highs. That's going to be your swing low to start that fib retracement off of, and then run it up into those all-time highs. Where did we pull back yesterday? You're on the SPY and see that low a day bounce. Well, right off of this zone of support between 602.34 to 602.48. We can see here that we came up into that zone, came back and back tested it on the 2nd of December, came down and held it again as low day support on December 3rd, and had a very strong pop and push to the upside. But when you look at that fib retracement, that's right where that gold pocket is on that fib retracement. So you had some double confirmation yesterday of great support right there around 602.34 to 602.48. It was also right in line with that fibs golden pocket. And that's exactly where you saw the SPY come down to yesterday. It is a low a day and see a nice little pop and a nice bounce. And we're starting to see some follow through off that bounce. Well, so with that being said, it was a very key level, great area on the daily to come down to, and we have a nice push. So if we start to get through some of these overhead levels of resistance, I personally think we see the SPY start to work its way back up into those all-time highs. All right. So first key level that I want to be paying attention to today is going to be this zone right here between 604.08 to 604.32. We can see that we have a nice little zone around these daily points. That's going to be a key level to watch today. Then we're just working our way on up. Where's our next daily zone of support resistance? Well, it could be a lighter zone, but it's definitely an area that I want to keep on watch. We only have 2 points that create this zone, so it's just going to be a less significant zone here on the SPY, but still a zone that I want to keep on watch for today and see if it's respected. That's between 605.62 to 605.82, and then next zone is back up against all of that resistance, the same zone that we got short off of on Monday. That's a very significant level of daily resistance here on the SPY. That's between 607.66, 607.91. You guys have these 4 key zones and your 4 main levels to really focus on here today on the SPY, all from the daily. Then we just go down into that lower time frame, see if there's anything else that we can do. Any uptrends, downtrends, fib retracements, fib extensions. Is there anything else we can do to further our analysis? Well, I've already done the legwork for you. There is not. We're really just focused on these key zones. So where's the SPY right now? The SPY is sitting above our main key level now as support. That zone right here between 604.08 to 604.32. And that's such a significant zone in my opinion. That's going to be our make or break. Trading above it today, we can definitely push higher off of it. Get back below it, stay below it, I think there could be more downside. That's definitely an area that I'm going to label as my line in the sand for today. That's a key significant level. That's my make or break. I want to see what happens off that zone and simply look to trade accordingly. And what do I mean by that? Literally just wait for the market to open, let the stock come into the zone, assess price action, and then based on what price action is telling me, just trading accordingly. So we come down into the zone and we have really good price action and we see there's substantially more buyers than sellers present. We're looking to take it long off that zone up into our next zone of resistance between 605.62, 605.82. But at the same time, like what if we come down into that zone and we fall back below it? Well, we wouldn't want to take it long. We would want to see, can we back test and retest that level as intraday resistance and stay below it? If that's what we see taking place off that line in the sand, we'll simply look to get short back down into our next daily zone of support, which is right up against yesterday's low of day. So that's going to be the main game plan here on the SPY. I want to see the SPY open, come down into the zone, and just simply something. Do we hold it as support? Good price action? If so, I'm going to get long and simply look to play calls from that zone right around the 604.20s up into our next zone of resistance, right? That's your first target here on the SPY. Now, if we have a strong push through that zone, as long as we pull back and hold it as support, I would continue to hold maybe a runner on this trade to see if we get more upside into our next zone of resistance, which again is up here between that 607.66, 607.91. They're on the SPY. All right, guys. So that's basically it. That's the line in the sand. That's the key level that I want to see the SPY pull back into, and then simply see something set up. Okay. But again, just trade these other zones accordingly. Like, what if we don't open and pull back into that zone? Does that mean you can't trade the SPY of the day? That's not what it means. That's just a significant level that I would like to take a position off of, because it's a key level. This next level to the upside, remember, it was only created with 2 daily touch points. So this zone right here is not as significant as our line in the sand. So I definitely want to see if I have more confluences present on any kind of trade that I take off this less significant zone. At the same time, just trade off these zones accordingly. Let's say the SPY opens, pushes up into this zone. We have really good price action that shows us there's substantially more sellers than buyers. And let's say we have a good confluence, right? We can absolutely look to take it short off that zone, back down into our next zone, and just trade from zone to zone. And then to the flip side, what if the SPY opens and we see a strong push and a strong break through that zone of resistance? Let's just see if it pulls back into that zone and hold above it as intraday support. Ideally paired with another 1 or 2 confluences to take that long up into our next zone of daily resistance, right? So, main game plan, if we see something taking place off the line in the sand, right? If we come down and hold it, I'm going to play it long. We come down and crack it, retest it, I'm going to play it short on the SPY. Same thing with this zone here. If I can pair it with another intraday confluence, we come up to that zone and top on out, I would look to get short for the next leg down. We have a strong break through it, come back and retest it, hold the support. I would simply look to play that long up into the 607s. They're on SPY.
And
all right, moving on to the Qs.
what was your zone from 602 at 602? I'm sorry.
Yep, just down here near yesterday's low a day. So that lower zone is 602.34 to 602.48.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And so that zone was created right up against those low day points.
Yeah, I got that
from
one.
December 2nd to December 3rd. Go ahead and just mark up those 2 lows of day. You can even drag that zone up a little bit and even connect the
Yeah, I have it all the way to
from
56.
Friday, November 29th if you wanted to, and that's still a valid
Yeah, I
level.
have it all the way to 602.56.
Yep. And so you can drag it up into the candle body and get one more touch
Mhm.
point to further
Yeah, that's what I
just
did.
make it more significant.
Yeah, that's what
right?
I did.
Further validate that zone. And plus it was inside of that Fibs golden pocket, so that's another confluence added to that zone, that it's right in the middle of that Fib golden pocket.
Okay, yeah, that's what I did. Thank you.
Absolutely, 100%. And so we're going to go do the same exact thing here on QQQ. Start on the daily and then work our way down. So first thing that we see on the Qs is we have this big daily gap that we came down to yesterday, and we saw a nice bounce off the top end of that daily gap, right? So that's still going to be a pretty key level here on the Qs. So top end of the daily gap is at 519.62. Bottom end of this daily gap is going to be off that high a day from December 3rd, and that's at 517.16. So still have that daily gap marked on up, because we could see sometime today, maybe the Qs dump hard. Maybe we come down and fill the gap. You never know. But at some point in the future, we could see that gap get filled, and there's 4 different ways to trade daily gap. So definitely have that marked on up. Then we're going to just work our way up and identify other key levels of daily support resistance, which there's not a lot of with the Qs compared to the SPY. But we're going to go ahead and find the best of the best. And those are going to be the main zones and main levels that we're focused on here today. So first level here on QQQ is going to be between 521.22 to 521.43. Right? If we were to grade that on a scale of like 1 to 10, right, as far as like its significance, I would say it's going to be like a 5 or a 6 as far as significance goes. So it's not like the most significant zone that we've ever seen before, but it's definitely going to be a lot better than this zone, for example. So our next zone is going to be here between 522.36 to 522.49. If I did the same thing with this zone, go ahead and just rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say that's like a 3. So it's definitely not as significant as this lower zone, but still a daily zone that I want to keep on watch and see if it's respected intraday today. And then lastly, we have the zone up here between 523.54 to 523.64. Right? And then just working our way up. We're going to get all the way back up into yesterday's high a day. And then Monday's open is going to be that next zone between those 2 points. So create that zone up against Monday's open, drag it on down, and connect Tuesday's high of day. That's going to give you a final zone up here between 525.39 to 525.50. Right? So those are all of your key daily zones. Some are more significant than others, but that's what I like to do. Once I find all of my daily zones, I like to go through and just rate them on a scale of, 1 to 10. Right? Is this an 8? Well, that's the most significant zone that if I see a setup taking place off of it, definitely want to look and take a trade. If I have some zones that I would rate like a 2 or a 3, I don't necessarily just want to trade off those zones. I would really want to have additional confluences present, take trades off those zones simply because they're just less significant. So those are going to be like the 4 main zones and levels to really focus on today here on QQQ. All right, so let's go ahead and take that down to a 5-minute time frame. Let's get an idea of where we are at. So we had that lower zone. That was my line in the sand here on QQQ between 521.22 to 521.43. We already got back above it this morning. We grinded it as support here in pre-market. Saw a nice push off of it. Where did we go? We came up to our next daily zone of resistance. This zone here between 523.54 to 523.64. What did we see? We saw sellers start to step on in, right? We went from key zone, CPI data was released, right up to our next key zone before we started to see some of those upper shadows, telling us that daily zone is being respected. It is being validated, all right? So let's really just build a couple plans off that zone for market open. So if we see the Qs opening above that zone, let's see if we pull back into it and hold above it as support. If so, we could play it long up into our next zone of resistance between 525.39 to 525.54. But if we see the Qs getting back below that zone or opening below that zone, I would like to see it come back up, test that zone as intraday resistance, and if we cannot get back above that zone after falling back below it or gapping down below it, I would simply look to play the Qs short from that key zone down to our next line in the sand zone. And that zone down here, once again, 521.22 to 521.43. So let's see what the Qs are going to do off of that daily zone and simply go from there. Hold it as support, play it long to the 525.50s. Get below it, stay below it, play it short, back down to the 520.50s here on QQQ. All right. Other than that, for today, maybe we have some opportunity here with SMCI and then coin. We'll have to see how SMCI is moving with the overall market. We'll have to see how coin's moving as well. But let's go look at SMCI, see where we're at. Not really doing a whole lot. Still pretty much flat here in pre-market. So here's what I see on SMCI, and I think this could be a great day trade that turns into a nice short-term swing trade. So this is a trade that I would day trade, but just get positioned correctly to where if we have a strong bounce and a really nice close near the end of the day, at least I'm positioned correctly to hold a portion of this day trade as a swing trade because I would expect to see some follow through. So we have this big daily gap here on SMCI down between 33.46 up to 35.32. We have this big daily gap. So if SMCI can come down into this daily gap today and fill it, I would be looking for what we call a gap fill, bounce. We come down, fill the gap, hold it as intraday support, see buyers start to really step on in, and we get a nice big bounce and a nice big push off the bottom end of that daily gap. That's at 33.46. So if we see SMCI down at 33.46 today, I would look to get long for a gap fill bounce. Stops would be right below the bottom of the gap. So that would be a stop loss. Entries would be right at 33.46. And my first target would have to be the top end of that gap. So again, this is a day trade opportunity. I would take it from bottom of the gap to the top of the gap. That's about a 2-point move, right? We can definitely make some great profit on a 2-point move. But I also, like I said, want to be positioned correctly to where if we see it push back above the top end of the gap and continue higher, and we have a strong close near the end of the day, I don't want to take 100% of my position off the table. Absolutely not. I think we could see follow through into tomorrow, into Friday. And again, I would like to hold a piece of this position as a short-term swing trade on SMCI. So let's keep that one on watch and see if we can come down and fill this daily gap today and see if we have that opportunity to play SMCI long for a daily gap fill bounce down at that 33.46. Now, if SMCI doesn't set up today and get down there, who's to say it doesn't set up tomorrow or Friday? I would still keep SMCI on watch the rest of the week. If we don't fill the gap today, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's Friday, and that's still going to be a valid trade plan in the coming days here on SMCI. All right. And then lastly, we got Coin. So here's a couple things I noticed with Coin. We've been analyzing this thing for the past couple of weeks, and we've just been stuck sideways in this daily channel here on Coin, COIN. Top of the daily channel is at 336. That's top channel resistance. Bottom channel support at 274. And what we see is every time we come back up to the top end of the channel, we fall on back down. Come back up the top channel resistance, fall back down. Come back up the top channel resistance, fall back down. And this was just one big false breakout through that 336 level, right? We actually see that it came up to that 336 level here last Friday, broke above it, but fell back inside of it here Monday, retested the top end of that channel, 336 resistance again with that lower high, then flushed. We can really see that this is a key level. We were above it here last Thursday, fell back inside the channel, dropped hard, broke back above it Friday, fell back inside the channel, dropped hard. So that 336 level is a very, very key level of resistance. So we're still stuck in this daily channel. But here's one other thing that I notice on Coin is, yeah, we have top channel resistance at 336, bottom channel support at 274, but we haven't quite made it back down to 274 yet. On this rejection, we never came back down to the bottom end of the channel. On this rejection, we may not come back down the bottom end of the channel. What are we actually seeing on Coin? We have top channel resistance, but we're also building higher lows along this push on up. If we continue to see Coin build higher lows up to top channel resistance, get rejected, come down, form a higher low, push back up, top channel resistance, get rejected, pull back, higher low, push on up, I would say this thing's getting primed and ready for a break, and a big break through that 336 region. So here's what I see. We have a nice little multi-week uptrend here on Coin. So go ahead and just connect these lows on Coin on the daily. We actually have this nice trend line. But when we get down to a 5-minute, we can actually readjust that trend line just a little bit and really start to connect all of those points. We go all the way back until like November 14th, connect that higher low from November 15th. We came down and bounced off that trend line again here on November 26th, bounced off of it again on November 29th, bounced off of it again December 3rd. And then what did we see yesterday? For the first time in weeks, we cracked the trend line. And here's the cool thing. We actually saw it retesting several times as resistance. So that previous uptrend that was being respected as support is now being validated and respected as resistance. Some traders would look to get short along that back test. But here's what we see this morning. What do we see this morning on coin? We gap open. We open higher. We gap up. Where do we come back down to? The trend line. Where do we bounce? Off the trend line. We pull back again in pre-market, put in this low and bounce again. Where did we bounce off of? That trend line. What this looks like to me was just one false crack below that multi-week uptrend. We cracked it, retested it. We didn't follow through to the downside. We're actually back above it, holding it once again and regaining that trend line as support. So here's my game plan on coin. Is I see the potential for this to continue to build higher lows into top channel resistance, higher lows in the top channel resistance, higher lows in the top channel resistance. And eventually, I think it could break top channel resistance at 336 and see some nice upside. So what I would like to do is see if there's a way to get in a long trade today off that trend line with a target back up at 336, where I'm going to take maybe 70, 80% of my position, but leave a little bit on the table to see, do we get that breakthrough 36 and do buyers really stepping on in and pushing this thing a lot higher? If we continue to see those higher lows build, we could absolutely see a nice break through top channel resistance. So I would like to see, can we get in a nice, good, high probability trade off this multi-week uptrend? Where would stops be? We know where our target is. And as long as we have good risk reward and we can clearly see that trend line's being valid and respected again, I would like to possibly get in for a nice little trade off that trend line, take it for a short-term swing trade, back up to 336 as my first target, then hold a runner with stops at break even and see, do we get those higher low break for that 336 level? I wish there was more on coin. Like, I wish we had more key levels and key zones to like add to this, but realistically, it's just going to be some of that daily analysis, how we see this thing building up over the past few weeks, really drilling down to that 5-minute time frame, really dialing that trend line in and just seeing how well it's being respected. So if we come back down to the trend line and we see good price action and we see a good bounce, I'm looking for an entry the long side. And this is something that I would probably grab 30-day out calls just to have enough time. First target, 336. At that point in time, like I said, probably 80% of my position would come off the table. The other 20% of my position, I would put a hard stop at break even and just see, can we break that 336 and continue to rip higher on coin? So if we see it come down to the trend line, we respect it, we hold it again like we have so far in pre-market, that's an area where I'm going to get long for that potential push on up to the 336s. That's what I see on coin. A little bit of a different style of trade, not from key zone to key zone, but just how well that trend line's been respected and just seeing price action and price development over the past 24 hours. It looks really good, and I would entertain that long right off that trend line and see if we get that daily higher low push right up to that 336, guys. All right, that's coin. So for today, you guys should be all set, ready to rock and roll. You got your game plans built around the SPY and the Qs, and we have some decent potential today with SMCI and Coinbase. All right, we got about 16 minutes. Now it's 15 minutes, the market open. If there's anything you guys are looking at that's on your radar, bring it to my attention. Let's review it, and let's just do some analysis on it and get you guys prepared for the day.
Good morning, Josh. Oh, go ahead.
What's up, everybody?
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hey, thank you
Who's
for the
first?
screen. It's nice and clean and crisp.
It's nice and clean now. I didn't do anything different,
Oh,
Dom.
man.
Nothing different, brother.
Man.
I didn't do anything different. I realize you guys can't even see me on YouTube, but hopefully you guys can still hear my beautiful voice. We got some technical issues today, Bob. Is there anything on your guys' watch list? Let me know.
IWM.
IW.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Matt.
Hey, what's up, Matt?
Hey.
IWM, right on the daily. Oh, my goodness. Not a lot of key levels that I really see at first glance, but nice little fib retracement from swing low to swing high. You came down to the 50% yesterday, saw a bit of a bounce. First little level that stands out to me is right here. Nice little tight zone. Came up, high day rejection, bounced, bounced. See what it did off that zone yesterday to see if we can validate it. But teeny weeny little zone between 37.59 to 7.73 would be like the first level I'd gone up. Again, I'll just go down to the smaller time frame to see if we can validate that zone. These daily candles that just lasted through. Other than that, working our way up. Next, like most significant level, it'd be that same zone that we were talking about last week that we took a couple of trades off of. That was between 239.23 to 239.46. That's going to be another zone here on IWM. And then let's go grab. I would say it's going to be right here. Tight one, just off of handle bodies and some of those lows, but right up against this like 240, 40, 61 region. But I want to further validate some of these zones on lower time frame. We had good, like 5-minute around some of the daily zones on these days where we have those big candle bodies through it. But what do we see? That lower zone was respected beautifully. I know yesterday we said we wanted to validate it. Go to a 5-minute. I can further validate it. We opened at the zone, flushed, broke above it, held above it as support. We pushed. I like those pivot points yesterday off that zone. That's going to be a key zone of support. 237.59 to 237.73. And then your next area of resistance at 239.23. 239.46. So with IWM, that's going to have to be our line in the sand level. Come down into that zone. If we can hold it as entry support, I would say we can see a nice push up into the 239 next zone. We get back below that zone, retested as resistance. I'd say realistically, you can fade and fall back down into these yesterday here on IWM. So I would really just put my focus on our line in the sand. 237.59 to 237.73. Trade accordingly. Hit that zone with good price action. Play it long into the 940s. Crack that zone with some force. Have a proper retest as intraday resistance. Play it short back down to 641. That little higher low from yesterday's session. So, decent downside potential in IWM. Better upside. You get about 2 points a potential upside, but you can still catch about $1 plus to the downside if you crack that zone. But that's the main level that I would focus on with IWM.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? I mean, that's a pretty solid zone, and I like the move off of it. Let's go look on the November 22nd candle. Validate it. Second, this day here, you didn't get a whole lot. You came up to it, tapped it a few times, got above it, held it, pushed. Decent little push. I mean, yeah, if you take this thing all the way back until like early November on a 5-minute, you can further really just validate the zone. Resistance, broke it, held it, or came down, bounced off the level, got below it, stayed below it, came down, bounced off that level. We can see quite a few key points, really good moves off that zone, even going back for a month, 5 minutes. So that's a key zone. I would trade off of it. Come down to it. I just wait to see what it does and trade accordingly. Or doesn't matter, but that's a key zone that I would absolutely. That's IWM. What else we got, guys? camera keeps dying. Hour. Right. So, anything else, guys? Sorry for the technical difficulty as well. So, those of you on YouTube, I know you can't see my beautiful face, but that's okay. We'll have it fixed for Friday. You guys can hear me. That's good. You guys can see the charts. That's great. But I know you want to see. I get it. We'll fix.
So I like
Well,
the
I like-
analysis. I was looking at the options even before the open. Man, they are rich.
Which one?
Coin?
Yeah, they're going to be expensive.
Ooh, even before this,
They're up
even
there.
before this $10 move.
$8, $9, $10 a contract. Yeah.
10. How about 25, 30, depending on how far.
Yeah, those are rich. Yeah, like how long are you going out?
That was 30 days. I was going out to January. Let me just pull them up again.
Well, those things better like 10x themselves.
Yeah, the 330 January 17 calls. This is without the roughly $10 move this morning, or at $20, almost $21.
Yeah, a couple grand for an option. They're pricey.
That's only a
Can't get 30 of them. You probably get 3 of
that's
them.
a 42 delta.
What about those 30s?
That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at. 330s.
5 strike.
340s would be almost $18, but that's at least a better delta, just shy of 38.
Yeah, but I mean, for an extra, a couple $100, you pick up 10 points.
Exactly.
Yeah, those would be the ones. 30s,
Yeah.
336 puts you in money versus out of the money. And for an extra, like you said, $3, pick up an extra 10 points.
Oh, you're that's talking about value.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just wish there was more on the trade. I'm not a big fan of just entering solely on like long extended like this. I like to pair it with more confluence, but there's not a whole lot that I see. It's okay. Okay, as long as it has really, really good price action, and we really nail that entry, our stops will be nice and low anyway. Plays on out for it.
I like seeing how my SMCI paper swing trade actually worked out.
Oh, dude, yeah, following through, man. Nailed the entries to the short side. She's way down, and now I'm just waiting patiently for that line at 36 down.
Now on that one, I'm waiting for 32.97. I'm waiting right on the body.
Right on that body? Okay,
Yeah,
I can dig it.
it's just now trying to figure out, and this one I'm willing to take an actual live trade. It's just I put my alerts and everything, so whenever it hits the top of that wick, I got an alert. That way I can be like ready to try to get in on the body area.
There, yeah, you know me. It's like, is it going to be wick to wick for the gap, body to body? I just got to pair it with intraday price action. Okay, so if we come down to the bottom end of the gap that's created off the wick, and we just fade through it with no price action, then I know to go to the daily, readjust it to the body, and then just wait for price action to validate that level's being respected. But if it comes down to that 36 and we have good price action, I'm going to start looking to get in there. Pairing it with price action off that daily gap level, that would buy entry for me. We had good price action off that 30.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Like maybe thinking of I guess that's how y'all maybe do it. Like jump in with a small contract, and then do y'all add it into the position if it comes a little bit lower, or
That's not what I do.
no? Okay.
What I do is if I go wick to wick on my gap, and that's how I'm starting my gap, I wait for price to come down to it intraday. If we have that reaction I'm looking for, I get in expecting that to be the gap fill bounce level. We have good price action. If I get in, it bounces a little bit and then it rolls through it. I take my quick stop. I just get out and I wait for it to come down into the body. And then once again, see if there's good price action. If so, I'll re-enter the trade.
Okay.
I stop at the first one. Go ahead and wipe the slate clean. Get out. Wait for it to come down to the body. Wait for it to set up. Because to say it comes to the body and sets up, maybe it keeps dumping. I want to be out of the first trade, reset, wait, good price action, validate the entry, then get in again.
Got it. No, yeah, that one is on a weekly and a a daily zone. That's why I feel confident on that one, just the way I felt confident on the other one. Still another 5-1. Well, I think that one's gonna be more like a 6-1 because it's a small can that
It's up there.
I'm looking at. So I said, wow, I can't believe I'm actually seeing something finally.
It's up there, man.
As far as for a coin, I just did some analysis real quick. I do see that it keeps it's pretty much following the trend or knocking out. If you look at other candles from, what are we on? December 8th on a daily of 2021. So pretty much, I mean, I just did a whole, I guess, rectangle and just drag it all the way to the right. So I marked the body from the, what is that? The open all the way to the top of the wick, the high of that candle. Then I also did the same for the candle from, what is this candle? November 30th, 2021. On that one, same thing. It was the close of the body all the way to the top. And then, what is this other candle? It's on the phone. It's just hard to tell which. November 15, 2021. Same thing. Open of the body all the way to the top of that wick. So if I just did those lines going all across, and that's just on the daily, I still got my weekly zone and my monthly zone. Pretty much just marking all of those down as well. But if I go all the way to the right, I mean, you can see once it passed that first candle from December 28th, which the price was at
Came right up to the
290.
next one and just started to beat it up.
Yep, it was that 290 and 284.43. I mean, as soon as it passed that was a strong zone of just support. And you can see it's just okay. It touches that zone, it knocks it down. Touches that next zone, knocks it down. So yeah, if y'all can get a good entry on that, I mean, awesome, you know. And then
It's beating that zone up to where if we continue to build those higher lows
Mhm.
and continue to beat that top zone up and that 3-6 level. Yeah, I think we get a nice little bit. We can see the upside of those all.
Then the last candle was,
Not all-time highs, but you're talking like 369 for.
yeah,
All-time highs are like way up there in like the 4. But I'm talking like right there in like the lines would be like target.
yeah, that's the
if
last
we do
that's
see
the last
higher
candle
lows and
actually right
break
there.
through 6.
Yep, that's the last candle from that zone in the monthly, weekly, daily zone. It's at 357.39 and 368.90. That's the last. I said, oh man.
And I think that's a realistic area to see it push up to the thing back down.
Yep.
Why do I still hear my
Josh, I have a quick question.
what's up?
So, yesterday I marked zones on Google, but I was just like looking how everything moved. I did had it 2 zones yesterday, but today it turns into a gap.
So there's a gap, yeah, because we had that nice big push and gap up yesterday.
Yes.
Yep.
So when that happened, do you eliminate those 2 zones and just mark the zone, the big gap?
So if you have some like key zones that are inside of a gap,
So, well, yesterday I had it a zone from 179.75 to 180.34.
yeah.
And then I had another one, 182.02 to 182.51. But then when I look today, it turns into a gap.
There's a big gap. Yep.
So would you leave those 2 zones, or will you just create the gap, or would you do both?
Honestly, it's personal preference. If I still think that those are very key significant zones in a very large gap, and that's a pretty large gap. I mean, the gap is from like 178
Yes.
to 183,
It's
call
huge.
it. It's a pretty sizable gap. So are there going to be areas inside of this gap that we could see it bounce? Absolutely, off some of those key zones. So if those are very key, significant zones that you still believe are going to be respected, even if we get inside of this gap, 100%, keep those zones there.
Yep.
Because if you have your gap marked up, for example, and let's say we come in the gap and you take it for a gap fill short, yeah, your main target's the bottom end of the gap, but you have another key zone inside the gap where that could be like your first target to the short side, being that it's a very key.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is
And then we should be live inside of the Discord too for all of our pro members. Audio's live, screen's live. You guys should be all set. We're doing this different today. Instead of pumping it through a YouTube and giving you guys a link, we're just going to do it here inside of the Discord, see how it goes throughout the day. And if you guys prefer better than the Zoom link through the Zoom and the YouTube, then just and we'll keep running it this way. I need to.
And Josh, again, I'm not sure if it's me or but you're coming in very soft.
Coming in really soft. I mean, I got my audio jacked up right now,
Yeah,
guys.
you
Is
can-
it coming in soft for everybody else too?
I can hear you really far away, like far away.
Really far away. Oh no! Let's crank this up a little bit and see. Make it any better now. How's that? Is that any better?
Much better.
Oh yes.
There we go. Just about 10 decibels. That's it. All right, market's open, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go right into the spine the queue.